was born in Rochester, New York,
Genesee,
at Genesee Hospital
Alexander.
on Alexander Street.
November.
It was on November 21st, 1930. Yes, I was.
Yes.
Yeah. First, it was a hearing school. Nursery school, thank you.
My mother goal.
My mother's goal was to have me be as much of a normal student and socialize the same as hearing students. I didn't realize it, but I was really left out in nursery school. I would cry a lot for 3 days at a time. Okay, well,
My father's and
my father's aunt, Hattie,
Andrews.
Miss Andrews,
This
she was teaching at RSD,
first grade.
first grade.
She died that time.
She retired at that time. She was retired at that time, but she encouraged my mother to try the Rochester School for the Deaf. And my mom thought, okay, we'd try it, send him to RSD, Rochester School for the Deaf. I went to nursery school there. And I saw all the kids, and they were all signing, and it was just amazing. So that was the beginning. Yes. It was finger spelling completely, no signs at all. It's called the Rochester method. It was like more home signs, gestures. We weren't really exposed to ASL at that time. It was more home signs.
Good question.
That's a good question.
Since my own school,
Since Malone School for the Deaf, from Malone, New York, they closed in 1950s. So a lot of the students from there moved to RSD. Students from Malone, they signed. So that was the beginning of introduction to sign language and melding it with finger spelling at Rochester. Thank you. My sister was born 3 years later, after me. Yes, she did.
Were you signing in the family?
No. My father finger spelled. My mom refused to finger spell. She was very strictly oral, my mother. My father would finger spell. Because my father played with deaf children when he was 12 years old at RSD. And he picked up finger spelling there. Yeah, she taught first grade. Yeah, with my father. Oh yeah. We'd sign and we'd finger spell. There were a few homemade signs that we had between the two of
us.
So my father entered RSD when he was 12 years old. My great aunt. My aunt was teaching at RSD at that time. She brought my father to introduce him to play with deaf boys, to play baseball, other games. And my father would pick up the finger spelling and gestures. And he became some good friends with some of those deaf boys. Later on, they ended up working for my father at the lawyer's printing company. My father later started the Boy Scouts at RSD, Troop 29.
flag.
He tried to
and
organize
program.
flags and programs and banners,
First, he can
and had the first Eagle Scout. Oh, I flunked the Gallaudet test.
take my path for the thing ever. I did.
So my father thought that I should go to RIT for printing, which I thought was a good idea.
That thing.
Printing was a deaf thing
That
at that time.
the thing about the modern lithography.
Modern lithography. At that time, they didn't have it. Modern lithography.
System.
It was an old system, like linotype and linopress.
Linotype.
Linotype. Sometimes I would go into his shop where he was working.
No,
There would be many linotype operators all in a row. I remember going in and talking with them. So I knew them. His boss would say that it's time for your son to cut that out.
Good friends.
But I made some good friends there.
It was good for doing.
On the second floor. I thought you were deaf operators because the linotype machines were so noisy.
But I knew every single one of those on the night shift. That's very interesting.
Wow.
Now,
Now the only one living, no, there are two linotype operators who are still alive today. 2 years. The buildings? Clark Building? Downtown?
Oh, okay.
Camera.
Camera? I hated that teacher. His oral.
Classroom.
But that classroom was
Oblong.
oblong type of room.
Window.
And there were skinny horizontal windows. And the teacher was way at the front of the class, and I had a hard time seeing them. It was a real hard time for deaf people.
So
Yeah, it was the Clark Building.
Window.
It was more modern windows that they had. It wasn't very deaf friendly.
Some classroom. School for the deaf.
It was the same age as the Rochester School for the Deaf class.
With some other book side.
Eddie Cruikshank.
Eddie Cruikshank.
Some Parker.
Sammy
Parker.
Sammy Parker.
Some Parker. Carpenter.
He was a carpenter.
Parker.
He was working with wood. And he was a weaver. Joe made ties. I had a hard time at first.
I have to pick out the one I can read up.
I had to pick out the ones that I could read their lips.
This is
So the teachers mostly, there was no interpreter, there were no note takers.
so my father.
So I would ask my father,
I need special.
please, I need a special tutor. So they hired some private tutors.
No, Dagger took the class.
Note takers were in the class.
Most of the students refused to
Most of the students refused
take notes from me.
to take notes for me.
No.
It was just a weird thing.
But
one fellow was paid
I stood
to take notes. He had to do it. It was his job. He needed the money.
Good.
It was good, but it was
I understand.
difficult for me to understand the words.
I go home and ask my father.
So I would go home and I would ask my father to help with the homework. and to help decipher the notes. But it was very overwhelming. The vocabulary that my vocabulary was pretty low at that time.
Right.
Yep, used the subway. Nope, never.
Nothing.
They asked me to join because of my experience.
They asked me to join because of my experience from
printing
like Pi Club, the printing club,
and
the RIT reporter.
What you do?
What did you do?
I
drew cartoons.
Night school.
Well, night school.
Go.
I took charcoal sketching and portraits because I wanted to specialize in portraits, portraiture. Charcoal sketches. And I was involved with baseball.
They found out that I was catcher.
Because they found out that I was a catcher at the Rochester School for the Deaf. And RIT needed a catcher. The other players were afraid of catching because it's a dangerous position. So I played for the Rochester School for the Deaf. So when I transferred to RIT, I was used to it. It was easy for me. You didn't need to communicate. Actually, the communication with hearing students was terrible. I met Dennis
Coach
at RIT.
Printing
He was a printing instructor.
Letterpress.
He taught letterpress.
Tennis coach.
And he was a tennis coach.
Do you have a bang bang?
asked about playing ping pong?
Tennis.
He said, "Oh yeah,
Ping
well
pong.
tennis, but ping pong."
Good. Bang bang.
So the two of us started playing, and I just fell in love with the game of ping pong from him introducing me to it. So
Parker and I had been playing it at Rochester School for the Deaf, and he was really good. So he asked to join Dennis's team. So the three of us got along very well. So
that's a good memory.
that's a good memory.
Dennis, this is the Parker,
Parker.
That was the teacher, the tennis teacher's name. He died.
Did a tournament.
But we had been set up a ping pong tournament during the winter season. And that it became a really successful event. It was really popular. It was disappointing that it wasn't in the yearbook. Sammy Parker from the Rochester School for the Deaf was building from that experience, and the two of us really enjoyed that. So with the tournament back in '52, or there were 52 participants, and we had two brackets. Sammy Parker was on the other bracket than I was. And then single elimination, and then it came down to just him and I. And then we played one another for the championship game, and it was a tough competition. He beat me by 1 point. Bob Panera. He was teaching at Gallaudet, and then he'd come here for visits, and then he'd come here to RIT, and I thought it was great. I wanted to meet him, so I know Mrs. Shumway. I told her about it, and we're talking about RIT being such a great place. And that's kind of how things started. I was so happy to see RIT and see everything they had here.
No interpreter.
Yeah, at the time I was there were no interpreters.
But
I think there was one deaf woman from RSD who was hard of hearing. And she signed, fingerspelled, and she became an interpreter at RIT. And she was helpful. She was the one who organized sign language interpreters program. Alice Beardsley was the very first person, and she was a strong influence on setting up the program here. And then Florence Hughes and Karen Finch. Yep. I remember those two well. And I saw Florence Hughes at the play about 2 months ago. I think it was. I was so happy to see her. She didn't remember me. Yeah, many times. My friends, I'd meet some friends there, other students, get advice. At that time, I was really felt like I wanted to be a printing teacher at NTID, and I interviewed 3 times, and all 3 times I was turned down because I didn't have the degree. But my experience was with the older systems, with the printing. Yeah, I really wanted to help deaf students with printing, but it didn't work out. Yes, I did. I went to the library the first morning. I came to the library to finish my homework for one of my classes, and I asked the librarian at the desk. Several days I had different questions. She would get books for me. And one time I asked Frances, my wife. That time I didn't know her. She was there. She was a librarian, and I asked her different things. She was helpful. She was friendly, pleasant. At first, we would write notes. I would write notes to her, and she would exchange them back with me. And there was a fraternity dance that was coming up.
Half moon.
The half moon. Right. That's what it is. Thank you. It was in the fall. And my fraternity brothers were asking for a double date. I was driving. I was the driver. And they said, well, if you're driving, he said, well, I can't put my arm around a girl. I was shy. They said, oh, don't worry about it. So we set up the date.
And
I needed a girl. So one of my fraternity brothers, Josh Adam? George Adam? He said, just pick any girl, anybody, to invite to the dance. So I met one of my friends, my wife, Frances, at that time, was over in the girls' dormitory. And my fraternity brother, George, asked one of the girls in the dorm. So George asked another girl in the dorm. And the girl's like, well, I'll go find out. And they asked around, do you want to go with this deaf boy? And she'd ask various girls, and only one volunteered to go, and it was Frances. I mean, she had no experience with deaf people or with fingerspelling. And so before the dance, I met her at the dormitory, the first floor, in the hallway. I mean, there were many floors to the building, but we met in the first floor. And we introduced each other. we made the connection between my fraternity brother George,
Got a dress.
and I asked what color formal dress will you be wearing? When she asked her roommate what color dress it would be, and she said green. And she asked why I was asking you, and I said, well, I wanted to get you a corsage that would match your green dress. And she was appreciative of that. And I asked George what time to pick everybody up, and we had the time set. And so we set to see one another later and what time I was going to see her.
I happen to know some
of the fraternity brothers through the printing classes. Hi.
I can join.
Yeah, they asked me to join.
I went to one of the brothers.
And it just happened to be, I knew, one of the brothers knew me from the printing program and wanted me to be involved and help out with whatever they might need. So I'm willing to be involved and help out. I was brave at that time. I tried everything.
Wow, you had no.
I wanted to break barriers and just try anything new. I was very curious.
Most of them.
Most of the interactions were oral, but luckily I knew some of them already from the printing department and the program I was in.
Committee several times.
I was on committees several times. None of them asked me about deafness. Not one. Nothing. They weren't exposed to it. There were no questions. Oh yes, I had many. Well, like I said, the professors all spoke. During class it was hard to go along. I preferred hands-on. I preferred learning that way with the printing press itself. So I learned best that way. One of the professors was the advisor for our fraternity. And I could understand him verbally, he'd speak with me. But some of the others, the linotype, Fred somebody or another, he was so good to me. I'd meet him as much as I needed to, and we'd type back and forth on the printing equipment. With a linotype, it's the little metal pieces that you put together in the linopress. It was a really old system that they used. And Fred, he was so kind. He was always close to me and took care of me, made sure I knew, I needed anything, he'd be there with it. He was so patient. I really liked Fred. The art department, the women, they were good. I got along just fine with the design people.
Dr. Ellingson.
Dr. Ellingson is a very good friend of my father's.
Dr.
Ellingson was on the board of RIT, the president of RIT.
Good friend, my father.
And he and my father were very good friends. So there were a lot of connections through RIT and helping one another out. Well,
gone.
I think most of them are gone.
Do you remember anything about that ceremony day?
It was at Eastman Theater. I wasn't there.
No. You weren't there.
No.
I graduated in August, so there wasn't anything going on then, so I missed it. Graduation's in May, right? And I graduated in August, so yeah, I wasn't there.
my father
Oh, that was easy.
got the job for me.
My father got the job for
Small
me
printing company.
at a small printing company called in the offset department. And that's exactly what I wanted. So I met the owner of that printing company, who came from Germany. And it was very difficult to lip read that person, but we did get along. And he said he needed a cameraman. And I was so excited because that was my specialty, was with photography and camera. So I said I'd try out the job for three and a half years, and I did it alone. I was the only one during the day. At night, it's a specialty. It's printing. It's an international yearbooks, excuse me. So we did a lot, and I did that job alone. Stripping, taking pictures. I worked many overtime hours.
Right?
My boss.
Yes, my boss
Kept me.
just really cherished the job I was doing, wanted to keep me and have me stay in it. It was good. The overtime pay was good, but oof. I worked for 3.5 years.
Department.
I stayed in the same department with the camera, stripping, printmaking, and those all three things were in one department. Dark room, stripping the negatives, and then you'd expose it for the offset plate, and that was my job. 3.5 years I did that. My first job was Microlex, was the name of the place. And they tried to develop new systems by reducing one page to just a thumb size, and then have them all on one screen, one card to contain all that information. It was to save room at the library. You know, all these pages can fit on one card. They were trying to compress pages to save space. It was not successful. So they tried, but they put me into the plate making department. I worked that for several months, and then I transferred to camera. And then back to plate making. I kind of bounced around a little bit. And that's where I stayed. Yeah, I was in research trying to do the new technologies with research and printing. Plate maker, camera, the linotype. The old system used hot metal that you cut, and then they were changing the technology. So each matrix had a film that was exposed and that printed. So you take numerous camera pictures on each slice on film. And then when it was done, I developed them and stripped them and put them on pages.
Your field?
Oh yes, I enjoyed it. I really like to start something new and be creative and innovative. Communication's an ongoing problem. I mean, people on the outside, they didn't want to make the effort to talk with me. It was posted for promotions. Promotions were posted, I'd interview, and then I would be turned down because I was deaf. And at that time, you know, it was back when knowledge and acceptance of deaf people, you know, we were seen as having a handicap, and we were kind of pushed aside. Yeah, I tried 3 times for different positions, different promotions, and I'd be turned down. The upper management didn't know much about deaf people. You know, we weren't provided with interpreters. It was tough. I had a tough time, but I accepted it. So I went ahead, I retired early and got out of it. 1989. Because of my eyesight. I had an detached retina in my left eye, so I had to stop working for 6 months. And then I retired. Well, I was out for 1 year and then I went back to work, and it happened again, but now in my right eye. I had detached retina. So it really scared me. So I decided to retire. I didn't want it to happen again because I'm deaf. I need my eyesight. It's crucial. That's a good question. Many people that took my place couldn't do the job. They'd call me to come and help out and do a lot of training for those new employees.
No experience.
They had no experience. And one was deaf. One of the boys was deaf. And he was a real hard person to train. Yeah. So when I retired, the boss asked me to come back again and again to train different people, and I said, I'm sorry. I don't have safety shoes. I don't have them on. And my boss was so angry because he wanted me to help teach and do some training. And it was cheaper to have me do it because of my experience.
After that,
so after that, when I retired, they hired people from Kodak that had experience. So they added 2 more employees to replace me in my one position. And those 2 didn't have any experience. Santa Valenti did the night shift. He worked under me originally, so when I retired, he moved up and took my position. And my boss had a real hard time communicating with him, and he didn't read lips or anything, so he depended on me. My boss bothered me a lot. And finally he said, you know what, I don't have any safety shoes, it's required for work, so sorry, can't help you out anymore. And he was mad. Yeah, George would call my wife, and I was busy at that time. Sometimes I'd be willing to come in and train people, but I had been retired. In 1989 I retired. And I was involved with Boy Scouts. I was involved with Boy Scouts at that time, after I retired. And one friend, Lester, Zimmer, we were good friends. And I asked him, or he asked me to help him to set up an answering service for TTYs. There were only 5 TTY owners. 1999? 89, excuse me. There were only 5 TTY, owners. They were the Model 15, the old teletype machines. There were Model 15, 28, yeah, all of those.
So I was awkward.
So it was awkward, but I learned the ropes through Lester Zimmon. Thank you. That's how I learned to fix the machines. Yes, yes.
My car.
And I'd make calls, or I'd go on the calls to fix any of the problems with machines. The TTYs were old teletype machines. We used for Morse code.
Notes. Yeah, the volunteer took notes. Most of them weren't that important. Yes, but it was boring. Yes, it was required for me to attend the meetings. I had to go, yes.
Okay.
But I had to be patient.
There
There was a note taker that would take notes on the whole thing throughout the entire meeting. And that was what the companies were doing, like LCP at that time. The lights for the doorbell? There was one old deaf man in the building. He was a doorman.
He did homemade doorbells.
He did homemade doorbells. And so he would set a wire from the door all the way into another room. It wasn't wireless at that time.
The first one that was made, I gave to the archives.
And then later they developed wireless systems. Well, I was married to Frances. I hated to miss the doorbell, especially if I was home alone.
It's in the 50s, maybe? 56?
Yeah. 54 from there on.
Okay, so 54 on. Okay.
My dog helped me answer the door, though. Well, right, they would go to the door and I would follow them. Yes, later on though. A light would flash. So it would be a clock. The clock would wake me up by flashing. So I had the doorbell, I had the light for the doorbell.
What
And
about
a telephone.
The phone? Yeah.
A baby crying signal.
You have.
3. First one's Betsy, who's right here. And then 2 boys.
And
Yes. Betsy does. I'm closer to her. I've noticed that girls learn faster than boys do. Boys are not quite as observant. Women are more eye to eye. They understand what's needed. When I first met Frances on our first date, I noticed that she had good eye contact. That's the girl I want, I said. I dated other hearing girls, but they would look all around. They really wouldn't look me in the eyes. So I made notes of that. And when I dated Frances on East Avenue, we went to the silent movies. Yeah, the 2 of us together. That was important.
yeah, a lot of deaf people would attend those.
Yes, it was exciting. It was an exciting event for the 2 of us to attend. Frances didn't have to interpret the whole movie because it was a silent movie. It was cool for me. I was happy. From time to time, I would teach Frances finger spelling and signs. Lester Zimmet asked me to help him set up telecommunications, TTY devices.
and the service.
It was a little complicated.
And the car.
So a hearing person would call the center.
And the car, deaf people.
And so TTAYs were used to call deaf people.
System center and the service.
There was a central need. The first one was at Penfield Nursing Home. We set up a training for the nurses. They would take some time off to help.
Members of service.
There were 5 members of that answering service.
Well, I trained about 3 girls.
I trained 2 or 3 girls, plus some of the nurses, to catch the answers if they needed some help. It was a very slow process, but it grew. It grew steadily to 28. 28 deaf people wanted to join the service, and that was an overwhelming request. I mean, you only had nurse volunteers. Mackay was the name of the Monroe County Association for the Deaf. Mackay.
Organized.
They were organized to help the deaf.
Program take over.
Shumway. Alexander Shumway. Hetty Shumway was there. And we were good friends, so I asked her if she would please help out. She said, sure. I'd do anything for the deaf community. She was a wonderful woman, Hetty Shumway. I loved her. So I met the director of Mackay, Sue Shirtliff. I tried to contact her to find out what had happened. And I don't know whether she was married or whether she passed away. There was no trace left of her. But I wanted to talk with her about our memories at the Monroe County Association for the Hearing Impaired.
I worked with Boy Scouts.
Well, I worked with the Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts, right?
Boy Scouts, right? So I helped out Boy Scout Troop 49. And then my church set up a new church closer to my home, so I transferred to that one. And there they set up a new Troop 77. Oh, no, they were all hearing. Troop 49 was the first. They were all hearing boys as well. And when I transferred to Troop 77, I was an assistant scoutmaster. Maybe for, there were 5 or 6 scoutmasters. I was only involved in that for a short time. So the new church set up the new troop, number 77. And I was an assistant scoutmaster, so I was helping out with the programming and events. You know, how to tie ropes, how to tie knots. I was learning the ropes.
Nothing. So the boy,
but the board asked me to be a scout master. I thought, what? Scout master for all those hearing boys? And they were like, oh no, you've got that down. They said, just try. For maybe 3 months afterwards, I tried out. So I spoke in front of the boys. Maybe a few problems at first. But 2 or 3 years later, the troop kept growing and growing and growing. because of my involvement as a Scoutmaster.
Program
I invented new programs
organizing troop.
of new ways of organizing the troop.
I've done brothers.
I guess
I asked 10 fathers to help me,
Delegate, I gave them jobs.
and I delegated jobs to each one of them
Advance
to advance
camping.
planning,
Advance.
camping,
2 affairs.
2 for each,
Guy to back up.
and one guy to be the backup for the other one. It was so very successful that the troop grew, kept on growing.
Starter, extra, 30 boys.
And
Starter,
the charter had 30 boys listed,
7 boys.
77 boys. It was overcrowded
Because of 10 fathers.
because there were 10 fathers. It
It
was a beautiful program.
Delegate.
Yes, I had to delegate the jobs to the different
job.
fathers.
The job.
But I told them which jobs they had to do, and it helped out with the planning. It was very successful. The word of Troop 77 spread and continued to grow.
Wow.
And the room was just full of people.
Make me nervous.
I wasn't nervous at all
Then assistant scoutmaster.
because I had 10 assistant scoutmasters behind me, and each one of them had their own programs to do.
Camping. That's for
Camping was very successful.
Course,
Advancement.
Through my experience.
It was a wonderful experience over the years.
Expect.
My eyes knew what to expect.
Scout office. Scout.
The scouting office
Split.
asked me to split the troop
And half.
in half.
But.
And I said, what?
Split.
Split it?
Two scoutmasters.
Meaning you would have to have 2 scoutmasters?
Scoutmaster.
No, I'm the scoutmaster.
To pay.
For troop 1, troop B? No way.
So I left.
So I left.
Impossible.
It was impossible to force me to do that.
So I joined. That's the summit.
So I joined
And
Mr. Zimmett.
That's why I was starting.
With the TTY.
With the TTY. And got involved in the deaf world.
Doing my scoutmaster.
Well, thank you. During my scoutmaster of or looking after those Troop 77, we had 5 Eagle Scouts at one time. Other years would be 1 or 2, but we had 5 because they had had so much help with all these beautiful programs that were set up.
I can post.
It was they're very accomplished.
Word
spread like wildfire.
Troop.
Another troop.
Come to Benetton, the house.
Remember Troop 19?
They challenged us to a series of games and things.
Contest.
Like a contest for rope tying, doing knots, knot tying, just different Boy Scout related games. And it was really hot competition. The games were pretty close.
Fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Together.
You know, it was friendly competition, you know, and it was popular. I'm sorry, I have to leave. I had to leave that because, you know, the other guy wanted me to help, Lester wanted me to help with the answering service, and other deaf peers of mine needed the help, and we wanted to improve the answering service for them, so that ultimately is why I left. Amazing. Amazing. The first time the NTID was established with that RIT, it made me so happy to see deaf people involved with the new technologies coming up. And looking back, I really wish I was able to be there to experience that at the time. So I'm so thankful. Thankful to Dr. Ellingston. He decided to move RIT from downtown to where we are now. Lots of them. I wish I could be young, to experience it myself.